Tiger fans, Greenville is a wonderful place to call home, and take it from me, a great place to grow your family. The housing market can be an extremely competitive and intimidating place if you don't have the right agent. That's why we recommend our friend and local agent Lana Smith with Live Upstate SC Real Estate. She is a native of Greenville and has been serving the needs of families in the upstate for over 20 years. You need an agent proficient in navigating the world of multiple offers who will put your needs first and guide you through the process. Let Lana help you achieve your real estate goals. Call her today at 864-608-8313. Again, that's 864-608-8313. And let's get moving. If you're looking for a great atmosphere and good food, you have to check out the Charleston Sports Pub. They're the premier sports bar location in South Carolina with locations in Clemson, Greenville, Goose Creek, James Island, Mount Pleasant, Summerville, and West Ashley. Watch all the games while you have fun playing all their games. Tiger fans, we dine there, legends dine there like Taj Boyd, and so should you. Go eat at the Charleston Sports Pub in Clemson every game day. 359 College Avenue, Clemson. Family owned and operated, serving Anderson County and surrounding areas since 1980. Heating and Cooling Services Inc. is your residential and commercial comfort expert. Anything from preventative maintenance of your home HVAC system to overhauling a commercial chiller and everything in between. If you want to breathe easier and be nice and cool in your home or business this summer or warm this winter, give Heating and Cooling Services Inc. a call today. Give Mark or Jason Tremmel a call at 864-224-7655. Again, 864-224-7655, and they'll take good care of you. Tiger fans, we don't just dress for success, we TS for success. That's Tiger Sports Shop. We shop there so much that they practically begged us to be sponsors for them. Not serious, but we do love shopping at Tiger Sports Shop in one of their two locations, 364 College Avenue and 1102 Tiger Boulevard in Clemson. If you're not in Clemson to check out the experience, stop by online at www.tigersports.com. Again, tigersports.com for all your game day needs. What's up, everybody? It's the Morgan Thomas Show, and I'm your host and producer, Morgan Thomas. Excited to be here to talk more Clemson football, baseball, softball, recruiting, and anything you have in the comments. I look forward to introducing everyone that's already in the comments. If you haven't already heard, when we start the show, we like to give you a shout out because it's not just a show about me, even though my name's on the title. It is a show about you as well. So get in there, get in the chat, put your name in there, where you're from, say go Tigers, whatever it may be. We will give you a shout out as we get the show started. But it's not just me by myself. I'm also joined by my two lovely, beautiful co-hosts, starting up with Big Al, Alan Adams. Welcome to the show, Big Al.
Hey man, hey, little hiatus, couple weeks off, not bad. Good to recharge the batteries for sure. But it's nice to be back. Got a lot to talk about, like Bill says in the comments there, a lot to catch up on. So it should be a fun show.
We do definitely already have people getting in the comments saying, "Hey, where you been?" Well, 2 weeks ago, I wanted to do a show. And these two losers said, "No, we're not going to do a show. We're going to take a week off." And then the week after that, I said, "Hey, maybe we should do a show." Then I looked and I saw where there was a big basketball game on Thursday night that I thought everybody would want to see. I think it was Arkansas and Gonzaga. So I thought, well, 7 o'clock, you probably want to watch that over us. Maybe some of you are saying, "No way, I wouldn't want to watch that over the Morgan Thomas Show with Big Al and Houston Burnett." But we are back now. And, to be honest with you, the team took spring break. So I'm not really upset with it. I hope you're not upset with it. But we are back. We plan on being back for the, weekly show as we continue to push forward because we know recruiting starting to get up. Hey, guess what? Just a few days away, or well, maybe 2 weeks away from spring game. I'm looking forward to that. Before we get into the details, we do have a third co-host. I know Houston's over there like, "Don't forget about me." And I know everybody's in the chat saying, "Hey, let's get some Mr. Houston Burnett on the show." Welcome in, sir.
Yeah, it's what the people want. I was worried the lighting is a little off tonight because one of the power strips that has my lamps and my Roku where I would have like a game on right now or so just died. Power strip just died. So I look a little different, a little dark tonight. So let's have fun with it. Yeah,
you're back from spring break, and you busted out some lamps. Hopefully, you weren't too violent over your spring break, but maybe go get that repaired and soon. But no, we like having you. We're glad you're here to give us some educated feedback on our opinions, because Al and I, we have the opinions. Houston is the one with the truth. But let's get into everybody that is already into the chat. We get a ton of people showing up. We really appreciate you. If you're not aware, this show goes live on Facebook, on our Facebook page. Sometimes it goes live on the Roar's Facebook page, depending on when we are allowed to do that. But we go live on the Facebook page. If you're not a follower, go follow over there. And we go live on our YouTube channel. If you're not a subscriber, go subscribe over there. Let's get in with the guests. So we've got Krusty Buster saying, "Welcome to the Krusty Buster Show." It's got kind of a ring to it. Maybe. John Sarian says, "Dabo finally had something, or finally said something positive about Stellato." We don't talk about Stellato. We can make that like the Bruno song. If you guys are aware of Encanto, we don't talk about Bruno. Maybe we don't talk about Stellato because he doesn't seem to talk about him much. Even last year, he didn't say much about him. Maybe we'll see him on the field a good deal. Finally, ? We will get into that question, but John, welcome in. Timothy gets in. He says he was way behind in the playbook plus injury. Was Dabo reason for him not getting much game time? Well, Timothy, welcome to the show, and thank you for responding to John here. Kevron Harris says, "Good evening, Morgan Thomas, Big Al, Alan Adams, and Houston Burnett, listening from Cope SC, and go Tigers," with some cool emojis there. Thank you for getting in, Kevron. One of our longest, if not the longest, fan of the show. Bill Lanham gets in. 4 paws, Bill. Wild man, I guess, Al, whatever you want to call him. Al has all these nicknames that he gives people, even to himself. But y'all really doing a show. Have a lot of catching up to do. Al, you mentioned that. I know we do have a lot of catching up to do. He also mentioned softball has never lost to the Hens of South Carolina, year 3. So that is very true. We're very excited about that for the girls. John again gets in. We'll get to you, John. Timothy, we'll get to you as well. Andrew says hi. Welcome in, Andrew, over on YouTube. He says, let's go, guys. Great show. We hope to give you one. That's for sure. Krusty Buster has got some other things to talk about. He's talking about a Cleveland Browns fan. He's going to need some therapy session there. Again, Kevron gets in. Krusty, my dad, Joey Thomas, says, ask Alan. Dad, that's not how Alan spells his name. You know that. What's wrong with the baseball team? What is wrong with the baseball team? That is something we're definitely going to get to for sure. So Al, hang on tight to that. John says, or Will Smith's wife. I don't know. I don't know where that's coming from, John. I never get John's jokes, but we appreciate you guys getting in. We got a ton to talk about, and we like Bill said, no truer words have been spoken than the amount of content we have for a show that hadn't been on for 2 weeks. Now, you would think a lot of things hadn't been going on, but there have been a lot of things going on. Really, we started back at a great time because Dabo Swinney just came out last night and gave his post-scrimmage number 2 thoughts, comments, and concerns and did an interview. A lot of really interesting things from that interview. I will spare you playing it while we go through it. I wrote down some key points from that interview, and we're going to talk through it. You guys, you ready to talk through the Dabo Swinney interview?
Giddy up.
Always can do it.
Let's do this. All right. So first up on the docket here, we got, are you concerned that Clemson is missing a lot of players this spring? Now, Dabo came out and he said, hey, it's the second scrimmage of the spring. They had a lot of guys out, ton of guys with mono, said they were kissing their girlfriends too much. He said the team was kind of like a patchwork team. And it was almost like, he didn't say patchwork. I said patchwork. He said a minor league baseball team where you got the catcher playing left field and the pitcher out there at third base. You just patching them together. So that's why I say it's a patchwork. They got linebackers playing at cornerback because there's not enough cornerbacks out there. They got offensive linemen that are out that are getting moved around, which is a position of concern after last year. A lot of young guys, though, getting work. So I'll pass it around to you. Houston, we'll start with you up. Are you concerned that Clemson is missing a lot of players this spring? Because I did notice in the forums, a lot of people kind of like a little bit paranoid. Hey, we're not getting the kind of reps we need this spring.
The best thing that I've ever done is just got off all forums. Don't look at them. Don't give them the time of day. It's everybody that knows everything on forums. So take that with a grain of salt. Look, yeah, no. I mean, is it? Yeah, but it's not. It would be really concerning if out of these 15 guys, like 6 or 7 of them had like seriously doubtful for the season type injuries. And we've seen a couple. We've seen 1 or 2, Rayburn especially. That was affected, but it's nicks and cuts, bruises, all that kind of stuff. You're also factoring in there's a lot of guys that were from the end of the season that could probably practice if they wanted to now, but the coaching staff as a whole is holding them out. So there's a lot of factors. I just don't think it's a good idea when you see certain Clemson media people saying it's catastrophic proportions. Yeah, it's the spring. It's going to happen. It's going to be a patchwork spring game, but I would much rather it get all your bumps, bruises, nicks, cuts, whatever, out in the spring than have some serious stuff happen in the fall. And that can happen. I don't know. I don't want to definitively say it's good. It's not good when you have a bunch of guys that you're relying on. That's the truth. But I also want to just be kind of the guy that says, let's take a breath and realize that it's spring practice. Like, let's not throw in the towel just yet.
Now, Al, when I play Madden, I like to turn the injuries off so that I can play with everybody that's on the roster 100%, make sure they're getting through the whole entire game. Now, that's not realistic in the real world, but to Houston's point, is there any real need to panic or be worried? I mean, it doesn't seem like there's too many long-term injuries. I mean, there's guys that were injured and played through injuries last year and now are getting healed up and also getting surgery to kind of hold them out. There's the young guys that are coming in that needed surgery before they got on campus or got on the field. And then there's some guys that are just getting dinged up and having things like mono that just pop up out of nowhere and sometimes can spread around the locker room. So when you think of those things, does it concern you at all?
Well, I like Houston's answer, the yeah no kind of answer, because I mean there's certainly concern because I mean like Houston mentioned, it's the guys not getting the reps, it's the offensive line not getting the reps. This is a unit that needs a lot of has a lot of proving to do, to be quite honest, and the receivers as well. We've got a couple nicked up right now. Williams I think is out, and Bo Collins is nicked up right now. So it's a good thing that they're not more long term injuries, but not only that. So now you've got a little bit of. I'm not worried about the receivers as much. Offensive line, I think, is a big deal right now to have some injuries on the offensive line, but that kind of combined affects the quarterback. So now DJ can't get the reps with the guys that he needs and the guys that he's going to have on the field, or Cade either. So it's kind of like a domino effect there as far as how that goes. But I think people are mainly concerned about this for twofold reason: is the fact that last year we were devastated with injuries, completely devastated all season long, and they just seem like it's not going away. And so again, and the fact that you don't have the people, that are getting the reps they need, I think those are the two issues that mainly people are freaking out about. But at the same time, like y'all have already mentioned, I don't think they're major injuries. As long as everybody comes back ready to rock and roll come fall camp, it's probably not going to be a huge deal. But yeah, absolutely. There's always a level of concern without a doubt.
I mean, I think for me, I'm just trying to get through, and I'm excited about the spring game. No matter who plays. I mean, I think you can, if you really pay attention to the spring game, there are glimpses of guys here and there that want to prove themselves. I started to see Bo Collins show up in the spring game early, and I mentioned it. I started to see Phil Maffa show up early, and I mentioned it. And he got held back a little bit until injuries during the season allowed him to show what he could do. Specifically about Phil Maffa, I mean, he's been sitting there, and now he's the number one running back. At least in the spring, because there's nobody else available. So situations like that are a little bit more troublesome when you have the only person out there that can do anything. And I know the cornerback position has been very, very limited right now because there's of injuries as well. But again, I think there are players that are going to be able to show what they can do, where in a normal scenario, they might not be able to get those reps. That's why we're hearing things about Adam Randall early. We might have heard about him early regardless. But we're hearing about him getting a ton of reps, valuable reps, even more so than he would have in maybe a traditional situation. But again, I think, Al, you're right on the nail right there. I mean, I think that fans, including myself, just have to remember this is a new season. They are getting healthy from last season. The curse of the injuries doesn't have to happen 2 years in a row. Statistically speaking, Clemson has never had an injury-riddled season like that. I mean, at least under Dabo Swinney, it's never been that bad. So hopefully there'll be a return to the mean when it comes to the injury situation. So again, if we're in fall and we're having the same conversation, then I'm a little bit, a little bit nervous about that. But considering that we're in a situation where you want as many people to get reps as possible, I think it's important to just keep that into perspective. Let's get into the chat real quick and see who's got in and wants to talk about it as well. John says, this year's Tigers get more warm-up games, though. No Dogs or Aggies in the early 3-4 games. That's a good point there, Al. I'll throw it back to you. Obviously, they start out, I believe, with Georgia Tech, right? Mm-hmm. And that's a lot better than Georgia, of course. So considering that, do you feel like that helps them in the future? I mean, you got Georgia Tech, Furman, and Louisiana Tech as your 3 games. And then Wake Forest, as we've mentioned in the past, that they handled last year. So even with DJ not hitting on all cylinders, they outmanned Wake Forest. So what are your thoughts about, not only the injuries, but also seeing that the beginning of the season is a lot more favorable?
Yeah, and I'm glad you got to this comment because John's right on the money here. And the fact that they have these warm-up games, so to speak, you hate to call warm-up games when you've got a conference game to start out, but it is Georgia Tech. They are one of the worst teams in the conference, and it's somebody Clemson should be able to handle.
Their star running back
or not? Yeah, I mean, so it's one of those things where yes, you want to be healthy, you want to get that rhythm. You want to get that continuity on offense. I think that's kind of what concerns Clemson fans the most, is having these people healthy so they can gain the continuity over those first 3 or 4 games, so that when the big ones come, they're ready to rock and roll. I think that's kind of the big deal. But yeah, I love the schedule. I love the way the schedule sets up this year for Clemson. I think it's going to be great.
Houston, I mean, I've mentioned this in a conversation about DJ specifically. I think it sets up well for him. We know that he can perform against Wake Forest. Furman, Louisiana Tech should not be a concern. Georgia Tech, again, I don't believe should be a concern either. So really, for someone who needs those early wins and minimal stress to get into the rhythm of a real season, a live football season, I think it bodes well for DJ. But again, for the entire team and injury perspective, do you agree?
Well, I mean, yeah, entire team and injury perspective, definitely. You're going to get to play, assuming that the injury rash is subsided, is very minimal going into the season. You're going to get to play a lot of guys, or at least that's your goal to do that. The other thing that nobody wants to talk about, and look, I'm going to be on team start DJ, team play DJ, roll with DJ until it's absolutely necessary, and hopefully that's not the case, but it's to Cade in the first couple weeks. And I don't know if this is going to play out the same way like 2018, where we see the first two series and then the next two series go to Cade or whatever like that. But everybody's going to get reps to play. And I think this is the best way to like set this up. It's just going to be a lot of reps for a lot of guys the first few games.
I think that's a good call out because Dabo initially started. Well, we'll get to Cade in a minute, but I want to go back to Dabo's flow of what he went and talked about. He started talking about the team and the injuries and people that were out, and then he went to the defense and that they got 2 interceptions last night or yesterday afternoon, ran a ton of situational plays, and then said something that I want to touch on. Will Nate Wiggins be the next cornerback star at Clemson? He said that Nate Wiggins has had an extremely special spring. And Al, I know you are all loving this guy and you look forward to seeing what he can do. So Al, I'll start with you on this one. Thoughts on Nate Wiggins and what he can bring to the team next year? I mean, I assumed you'd be looking at maybe Fred Davis and Sheridan Jones, but maybe Nate Wiggins jumps in there and says, hey, it's my time too.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all for Wiggins to potentially jump Davis in particular. I think they're going to like. I mean, it's not that I don't like Davis. Davis was a huge recruit coming in, but with the issues he had last season, it wouldn't surprise me at all because I've liked what I've seen from Nate Wiggins. It was about this offseason for me. I thought he just needed to gain some weight, put some weight on his frame as long as he's maintaining his speed and all that kind of stuff. I think he's got potential to be a great one. And it's an awesome situation because we got those guys. We got Sheridan Jones, who a lot of people have picked on maybe a couple times over the years, and that's fine. I think he's a solid cornerback. I think he's got some physicality to him, and I think he's going to be fine as one of the starters. But I think you need a guy who has a little more upside, and I think Nate Wiggins fills that role pretty well. And then, of course, you've got the guys like Toriano Pride and Jaden Lucas that are going to be, breathing down their neck. And you still, like you said, you still got Fred Davis there, who may very well be one of the starters. It just kind of depends on how this offseason goes. But, yeah, Nate Wiggins is that guy for me.
Houston, what's your thoughts?
I mean, I don't think people realize that the cornerback group is going to be a very underrated group. I think a lot of people are pointing as an area of concern. You're losing Goodrich and you're losing Andrew Booth, and that's very true. Or that's very, very true. Very, very true. Very true. But you also have 2 stallion freshman stud cornerbacks coming in. You've got guys like Nate Wiggins, Sheridan Jones, and Fred Davis who are balling out as well. Wiggins could absolutely be that next guy. And correct me if I'm wrong, Green. Is he Malcolm Green? Is he going to be a safety or is he going to be a corner? Or is he like a nickelback?
He plays all over the place.
Yeah, I was assuming that he would stay in more of a nickelback type role. Wiggins is your sophomore, did not get redshirted, a former 4-star guy, high 4-star guy. So from Atlanta, Georgia to Westlake. So, I expect big things from him. I mean, you have Sheridan Jones as a senior now. Gosh, Al, seems like when we started this show, he was one of the recruits we were looking at.
Yep.
Fred Davis, Malcolm Green. Again, we have him at cornerback on our list, but he's really more of a nickel kind of guy. Nate Wiggins. And then Dabo continues to talk about they hit a recruiting home run on Lucas and Pride. Jaden Lucas, Toriano Pride. I didn't mean to say their full name there.
Lucas Pride sounds like a recruit in 2024. That's
Lucas Pride
I
could be another
recruit.
recruit.
I've known that.
if maybe they're maybe that's a player in the future. Yeah, maybe we could put him on a NCAA 2023 game. But so Jaden Lucas and Toriano Pride, both guys, Dabo says he hit a home run with at recruiting. I mean, obviously Lucas was a guy who your 5-star guy that they were trying to get out of Malden, and they ended up getting him. And then Pride is a guy that came out of Missouri, who a lot of people liked. Very feisty guy. We did some video on him, I believe. We like him a lot. You guys agree that these guys, I mean, how long do you think before these guys get on the field with Dabo Swinney saying stuff like that?
Well, I think they're going to be on the field early simply because they're that talented, and honestly, the proven depth isn't there right now. So I think they're going to get their opportunities. I think they're going to get them pretty early, to be honest. But as far as being, maybe displacing one of the starters, I'm not sure that happens. If it happens this year, maybe we'll see. But I would imagine if that were to occur, it'd be near the end of the season.
Yeah, I agree with Alan on that. I mean, I think Lucas and Pride will play a lot. But I don't think you're going to see them crack the starting lineup until probably next year.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't necessarily think that's their goal. I mean, obviously, I'm assuming they're trying to go as high as they can, as far as they go. But anytime you're a freshman, you got to learn the university, you got to learn the playbook, you got to learn the audibles, and your coaches and just all kinds of things to absorb and learn as you grow and become a part of the team and even get accepted on the team. You got to kind of prove yourself when you're the new guy on the block. And it seems like from Dabo Swinney's perspective that they definitely are doing that. Let's look at the chat real quick. We've got Timothy getting in saying the QB or the cornerbacks, the cornerbacks could be special. I think they will be special. I think we scratch out the could. I think they will be special. When you look at it, the way it's shaping up, fellas, I know we kind of hinted on this maybe a few weeks ago, maybe a month or two ago. Could this be one of the best secondaries Clemson's had?
Houston.
I mean,
He just wants to say, I agree with Houston. That's why he pushed you first.
I've been taking these last couple, so I'm going to let Houston have this one.
It's too early, I think, to say. I think, one, let's see who's healthy at the beginning of the season. And then, two, let's see who's starting in the safety rotation. Because this could be. I mean, you pair that with Makuba and Mickens and Green, and apparently Phillips has been playing out of his mind. So you got a couple guys. So if they play to what they've been saying, yeah, absolutely. But it's spring ball. So let's before we say could this be the greatest ever, let's get some fall camp report in first.
Let's do that. That's probably a good idea.
Timothy said special. I elaborated on that. I maybe over exaggerated there.
Took it up a notch, and that's okay. But I think, I'll tell you this: I think the secondary is going to look even better than maybe they are because of that defensive line.
All right, so now that's a good point because Andrew gets in over on YouTube and says, "I know that we're very deep on the defensive line this year, but who do you guys think can crack that rotation?" Just to kind of give you a rundown of the chart that I have, and it's available over on on my Twitter account at the Morgan T Show. Obviously, you got XT returning, KJ Henry, Justin Maskell, Greg Williams, Kevin Swint's been talked about a bunch, Miles Murphy, Denhoff and Patterson are starting to get in the mix and being talked about again too, or now finally for the first time because they didn't get any reps at all. So your two red shirt freshmen from last year didn't get any reps at all, but they're getting talked about a ton. Dabo mentioned that there's too much talent on the defensive ends. They got to have a healthy rotation. That's great for these guys that are seniors that are getting ready to go to the NFL because they're going to be fresher than if they had to be relied on for every single down all season go into the combine, right? They're going to be rotated in a healthy rotation. And really, to me, when you look at rotating XT with, say, Greg Williams or Kevin Swint or even a Patterson maybe gets thrown in there, then you rotate your Henrys with Murphy and Maskell, and again, Williams or Swint, depending on where they fall in. I think, you're going to have a really, really nice rotation there. So I think you're going to have a healthy rotation when it comes to defensive ends. Mm-hmm. For me, for defensive tackles, I mean, I think you got to do the same as well. You've got obviously Tyler Davis and Brian Brissy. You got Aurora, who just showed out last year. So, I mean, player of the year on defense, I think. I mean, one of the player of the year. I probably give it to Trenton Simpson, just about how dominating he was and how, uncertain I was about him and my negativity there. But I think that, Aurora, Brzee, Davis, ET's getting, Intenosa, Ruben, they call him kind of ET, even though it's ER. But, those guys are doing great. And then Al, we've been talking about Page, Williams, Capehart for we've done recruiting videos on them, and it's just like, man, when is their time? So to Andrew's point, everybody can crack the rotation. I think that they want to be a rotational defensive line because, to be honest with you, there's a limited fall off there, and it's going to be nasty. I mean, you're not going to be getting many easy yards on this defensive line.
No, totally agree. I think you're right on with the ends. And as far as the ends goes, obviously, Murphy, Henry, and Thomas are your guys. I think that's pretty obvious. It's who's that fourth guy? Is it Swint? Is it Williams? Which I would imagine it's probably going to be one of those at end. I want to see more Patterson. That's what I want to see. I don't care that Patterson may not be the best player right now. Swint is probably ahead. Williams is probably ahead. And maybe even Denhoff's ahead for all I know. That's fine, but I think Patterson is one of your DNs of the future if he lives up to his potential. So I want to see him get in there and get some game reps for going into next season. The defensive tackle rotation is unbelievable, as you mentioned. Your 1 and 2, obviously, Davis and Brzee. And your 2s, in my opinion, are Rororo, and I would put Williams as that other number 2. They're going to say Ruben is as well, but I think as far as upside and talent is concerned, Williams is that guy. So, I mean, they've just got an unbelievable amount of options, and it's going to be great. We just got to get those. We got to get those guys, back down the lineup a little bit to get in there so we can be ready because we're going to lose a ton of talent after this season.
Houston, John gets in and says, having a fresh Davis and Brzee in fourth quarters will be a huge advantage. Rotate every game.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I think rotation on defense is going to be fine. I think, if you're Wes Goodwin, you're looking at some unproven talent, but that could be spectacular in the secondary. Some proven unbelievable deep talent in the defensive line. And then however you finagle your linebacking core, whether it's Simpson and Barrett or whoever moves to the middle, or maybe you play Jeremiah Trotter or Keith McGuire or Vontae Bentley, you have an athletic linebacking core. So for me, I look at him and I'm like, man, he's got I won't say easy job, but like to be able to know that you've got a solid lineup that you're going to trot out there every week. I mean, that helps you in your game planning going forward, and especially on the recruiting trail where you're trying to prove yourself a little bit more. So like, I think he's going to be great. I'm excited. The rotation on defense, I'm fine with. I'll say different for offense. Keep whoever's the hot hand on offense, but for defense, keep those bodies going.
When you enjoy your job, it's easy. That's what I tell Alan. Just because I make my job look easy, it's because I enjoy my job. That's the key behind it all. And if you're Wes Goodwin, I mean, what not to enjoy about being the defensive coordinator for Clemson, especially with the front seven and the secondary that's coming in this year. I mean, I don't see much fall off. And one thing that I didn't mention in our pregame notes and our pre-show notes, an article I saw a couple of weeks ago. We're kind of behind again. We took a couple of weeks off for spring break, but Wes Goodwin was saying that he did not throw as many blitz packages at the offense in order to allow them to kind of incorporate their offensive playbook and get it installed for the offense. Whereas Brent Venables was just going to go all out, every single, pulling all the stops, his entire playbook during practice. I didn't read the entire article, but that's kind of what I got from the initial paragraph there. So what did you guys read that? Have you heard that where, he said the comment about 40, not going to do 47 blitzes, going to do 46, as a joke. Did you guys read that? What were your guys' thoughts on that? Because for me, I think, there is that point of, maybe that's why Clemson has been slow on offense to get started at the beginning of the year sometimes. You kind of notice that it's like, man, it takes them a couple of weeks to kind of get into it, going back to the fact that the schedule is easier this year won't be as detrimental, right? But when you got to start with Georgia, you got to hope you get your offense installed early and people can get used to it. And maybe, just maybe, having a different perspective this year can help the offense improve. Do you guys agree, Al?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it's always good to have a different perspective for sure, no doubt about it. I mean, there's a lot of tweaks that I've been talking about making to the offense for sure for a while, especially middle of the field, that kind of stuff, slant routes, using that wide open space. And it's funny because they've come out in articles recently talking about all the green space. I'm like, yes, the green space, let's use it. We've been talking about it for like 3 years. Let's use it. So I'm hoping they're going to be able to do a lot more of that stuff, and a lot of that has to do with your slot presence and everything as well. So I think that's going to be improved this year. But yeah, I actually didn't read the article you're talking about. But yeah, any tweaks to the offense, anything to get a rhythm, like I was talking about earlier, getting a rhythm going is very, very important with an offense, and it's something Clemson's got to do because a lot of the fans are having kind of a hangover effect from last season when the offense did not do well. Plain and simple, they were well below average for a Clemson offense. So it's going to be really nice if we can get back on the train for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not reading too much into it with not blitzing. That's just Brent Venables' nature. And I think it's good that Wes Goodwin knows himself enough to be like, look, I'm not Brent Venables. I'm going to try to implement this defense, but I'm also not going to try to put us at a disadvantage on offense as well, especially how fragile that's been in the last year. I think he's a smart guy. I think, he knows what he's doing. He was in the NFL for as long as he was. He's probably taking some of the principles that he learned on a playoff caliber team under Bruce Arenas and maybe bringing those to Clemson. And I think any perspective like that's good. I'm sure that there's some rationale behind that, but I also know that he's going to have an aggressive defense, and his is going to be, probably. I won't say I don't want to compare him directly to Venables, but it's going to be just as aggressive, just in a different vein.
All right, so let's throw it over. We got about 33 people in. We're going to now talk about the offense. We got 33 people over on Facebook and YouTube combined. If you don't mind, if you enjoyed the show, again, we're going to do this every Thursday night, 7 p.m. Continue to talk about Clemson football, baseball, basketball, softball, whatever's going on. We try to talk about it. Whatever you want to talk about in the chat, we try to talk about it. But the key for us to get more Clemson fans in here, we want to grow this to be the greatest Clemson live show ever in the history of Clemson live shows. But to do that, we need to get more people on here to enjoy the show and more Clemson fans. So let's bring, like I used to say, if you be a friend, bring a friend. So the best thing to do is hit the like button over on Facebook or YouTube. And then the next best thing to do is share it. So hit the share button and send it to a friend in a text message and say, hey, come join me on this show and get in the chat and talk some Clemson football and all other athletics, sports as well. So let's get into the offense here. All right. So one of the things he talked about was the lone wolf. Well, I call him the lone wolf, but could the lone wolf, Phil Maffa, be the number one guy at running back in 2022? Basically, he's been the only one getting, the majority of the reps. I know there is another guy that's getting some reps. I can't think of his name offhand. I'm drawing a blank, but he's not the only one getting the reps. But as far as a scholarship guy that was a highly recruited guy, he is the only one because Will Shipley's out and Kobe Pace has been out. So Phil Maffa, I think this is great for him, the amount of reps he can get. If he can stay healthy and get these amount of reps with the number one team out there, I think it helps his stock and his potential to be able to maybe break his way into the number one spot there, if there is even a true number one spot with a three-headed monster that Clemson's going to have. So, Houston, I'll start with you. Is it even worth to talk about? I mean, because of it's probably going to be by rotation, or even with the rotation, could Phil maybe be the lead guy?
Well, I'm not going to say that he couldn't be the lead guy. Look, he sounds like he's had a great spring thus far. You're going to get to see a whole lot of him in the spring game, and if he balls out and looks good, yeah, he's got a shot. I mean, look, nothing that he did last year had me really concerned. He's a good running back. Mm-hmm. I think if you're able to get the tempo going and establish your offense more, having a deep running back rotation, no matter who the starters are, if you have three high caliber running backs that are, I mean, what, 2 sophomores and a redshirt sophomore, Pace, Maffa, and Shipley. That's hard to stop. Pair that with whatever you're able to improve on your receiving and passing game. That's great. So any news about Phil Maffa is good news, no matter who's the starter, whether it's him or whoever else.
Yeah, I've learned to never say never. But no, I do not think he's going to be the number one running back, and that's not a knock on Phil Maffa at all. If you listen to this show, you know I love what I saw from him last year. I just think Will Shipley and Kobe Pace are that good, to be quite honest, and I think they're the more every down backs that Clemson likes to use. Is where Maffa seems to be more of the bowling ball. You want to come in there in short yardage situations. Even though I think he can be that every down running back. I think right now the more prototypical guys are Pace and Shipley, and they're just that good. But it's certainly good for him to get those reps. I mean, obviously he's one of those running backs of the future as well. So it's a good thing that he's going to be able to get this and have this time and be able to show what he can do for sure. But pending some kind of injury or something like that, or a sustained injury, I think Pace and Shipley are going to be the 1-2 guys, quote unquote.
Andrew gets in over on YouTube, says Dominique Thomas is, I think, who I was thinking about. And Dabo Swinney's been raving about him as well. Somebody that's going to be under the radar, obviously not talked about as much as, the highly recruited guys. But sometimes those are your best types of players, your scrappy ones that want to get out there and prove what they can do. And he's getting some opportunities to do that as well. So I look forward to seeing what can happen. Obviously, I want to get the running backs healthy because you got to have that rotation. I think, really that's kind of the world of college and NFL football right now, is to have the rotation. You don't really have that superstar like when we were growing up that just like took over games and took all the snaps. Nowadays, you kind of share snaps, and I think it'll be good for Clemson to have that. Kind of in the same way we talked about the rotation on defensive tackle and defensive end. Obviously, there's not as many players in the running back room, but there's only one football. And that was what really hurt Clemson in recruiting, is because there's only one football. So when you have a 3-headed monster, or almost the 4 horsemen, will throw in Keith Adams, maybe the 5 horsemen will throw in Thomas there. So when you have that, it's hard to get another 5-star guy, because they're like, whoa, man, your room's kind of full. Even though Dabo likes to say that if you're a true 5-star player, you don't care if the running back room is full, which I agree with as well, too. Continuing our discussion over on the offensive side of the ball, one thing, there's smoke, there's fire, he said, is the redshirt sophomore offensive line have got to step up their game. Now, who are the redshirt sophomore offensive line, you may ask? Well, you've got Brian Tucker, you've got Trent Howard, you got John Williams, and you got your actual sophomore, Marcus Tate. But those are your redshirt sophomore offensive linemen: Tucker, Howard, Williams. All those guys have had rotation, from what I'm hearing, at right tackle, at right guard, and some even at center. So do you agree that, with Dabo Swinney, that the redshirt sophomore offensive line have got to put up or show up this season? And then of those 3, who are you maybe giving a lead to in the spring so far?
Well, I think it's important for them to do so just for depth purposes. To be quite honest, I don't think anybody expects him to step up and be the number one guy or the starter in any type of position. I don't think that's the case. At least that's not my expectation at all. But yeah, I think it's a very important thing for depth, and it's honestly hard to pick out a name. Going into about a year or so ago, I would have said Trent Howard would have been that guy, because I liked him in the recruiting process. A guy we got from Georgia Tech kind of stole from them at the last minute. I thought he was going to be a good run blocker, and I don't know if it's just been the weight or whatever, it's been installation or whatever it may be, but I haven't seen that from him yet. So right now, even though he's had an injury-riddled career, I think John Williams is the guy that has shown the most potential so far. And I just don't know much about Brian Tucker, to be honest. You haven't really heard a lot from him either. So I know John Williams at one point at least was going to be counted on kind of role, and he got injured, derailed his season. So I think that's kind of my lead guy in the clubhouse right now.
In the chat, John Chansey says Mitchell Mays is part of I think Mitchell Mays is part of the group Dabo wants to step up. So we could throw Mitchell Mays in there. He is a true junior this season, on there with Parks and Trotter. Also got Easley, Isley Pendleton Jr. gets in, says, do we have a center? I believe we have a center in Will Putnam. He's one of the, I think he reclassed and he is now a junior, right? Or did he move, or was that Parks that moved down? I can't remember. I think one of them has moved. So, but from what I'm hearing, Will Putnam, who originally was playing that right guard position, is now going to move into the center position. And from what Dabo Sweeney said, has maybe one bad snap a day so far. But Houston, let's get your thoughts again back on those redshirt sophomore offensive linemen, and then throw in the center question.
Yeah. So with the Putnam thing, it sounds like he's still working on just getting the crispness of being a center down. But overall, and this isn't just off of that one article itself, seems like he's done really well, and that this position he's actually probably best suited for than a guard. A lot of what I'm reading is he's actually taken to it more naturally than some of the other positions, which is great to hear. It's great to hear that Putnam is doing that well with that position. And if he turns into that, what it opens up for is you can go get a transfer lineman to be a guard or a tackle or whatever if you've got that center position shored up with one of your linemen already. As far as the step ups, I think he's saying that because Sadler and Miller are ballers. I don't think he has any hesitation in playing those two guys over those redshirt sophomores, because the best guy's going to play. And if the best guy, even though Sadler I know is out and Miller's I think been kind of hurt too, but either way, both those guys are ballers. And so I think this is just a clear message of, hey, I don't care. I'll play whoever. If they're the best ones out here, y'all need to step up, because this is an actual war right now to get on the field.
Well, we love Blake Miller and Colin Sadler, and Dabo mentioned that they are two ready dudes. Now I know, that is great compliment, but in realistically speaking, there are 12 other offensive linemen ahead of them that have been there longer than them. But back to Houston's point, maybe they can't break into the starting role, but maybe they can break into the backup role and jump those redshirt sophomores that need to put up or shut up. Al, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's a definite possibility, because I think those guys are that talented. I think Sadler and Miller both are guys we talked very highly about. We did their recruiting videos. I know, I believe it was Sadler's dad who was watching the show a good bit at some point, so we're obviously pulling for them. But you just want to see the overall talent in the offensive line room improve. And I think that's something we've shown in recruiting. Now it's about not getting 2 of those guys each year. We're getting 3 to 4 of those guys every year. And I think Clemson will be exactly where they want to be.
Houston, do you think that Thomas Austin is a good upgrade for the offensive line as far as recruiting goes?
Oh yeah. I think, and Alan, maybe you see something differently, but I feel like where Clemson's at now, earlier in the process, makes me feel more comfortable than, in times past where I was like, all right, we're gonna have to pull this one out. I feel like, especially when there's a couple of in-state guys, well, maybe one particular in-state guy, I feel really confident that Clemson can get, but they're expanding their board. I feel like they've honed in on a few guys that are really, really talented, and the frames of these guys that they're getting are animals. They're getting the biggest, baddest 6'7", 300-pound animals to come play for him. And Thomas Austin seems to have the mannerisms to do it. He's different than Coach Caldwell. I know Thomas Austin personally. I ate lunch with him a lot when I was in college. And he's a good guy. I think he fits.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Solid name drop.
Whoa, hold on. Name dropping over here. Whoa. We're too good. We are not worthy, Houston. We are not worthy.
Oh yeah. This is back when he was he probably doesn't even remember me, to be honest. I was a freshman. And it just kind of happened. I was like, "You're Thomas Austin."
Let's make Houston. Let's make this clear. He remembers you. Okay,
no.
He remembers you. He remembers you.
Absolutely.
No co-host on this show is unknown in the world of Clemson football. Let's just put it that way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right. So continuing our discussion, what's really important, we talked about the running backs. We talked about the offensive line. But those guys got to protect the most important piece. And we are hearing that Cade Klubnik is amazing. He is a Deshaun Watson. He is a thoroughbred. He is the German Shepherd. He is the pure-blooded quarterback of all quarterbacks. He is also reaching, or maybe, or as we're speaking, as he's eating his Big Mac right now, reaching or surpassing that. Maybe not a Big Mac. Maybe he's eating chicken breasts, grilled chicken breasts, but he is at 190, so he is moving up. Dabo's mentioned that he'd like to see him at 200, but doesn't have to see him at 200.
Mm-hmm.
He also mentioned that, how amazing and great he has shown and just been able to just jump in and just giving him a lot of praise. Again, like a Deshaun Watson. Al, you remember when we went to the recruiting wrap-up dinner, we saw Deshaun and he was like, looked like maybe 150 pounds. He was so skinny. But he was, super nice guy, dressed well and professional and very polite and great manners to the fans and the donors there. So you could tell that he was, soaking it all in, new, a little bit nervous, but a leader. You could tell that. And then he just, gained a ton of weight, threw on a couple of tattoos, and then just won a national championship. Became a first-round draft pick quarterback for Clemson. Cade Klubnik is being mentioned in the same realm there. Now, DJ, to his point, I'm not anti-Team DJ because I think the best scenario is that DJ is the starter and that he does better and improves and can do well and maybe even get into the NFL himself. But is from what we're hearing and all the goodness around Mr. Klubnik, is it possible that Dabo, I say we because I'm so invested, but that Clemson and Dabo cannot keep him off the field? I mean, to be honest with you, Deshaun got on the field early. They had a couple of packages for him, and I could foresee DJ and Cade, kind of sharing. I'm not saying 50-50. I am definitely not saying 50-50. I'm not saying 70-30. But I'm saying there may be a couple of packages out there that are being built for Cade Klubnik. Al, you agree with this? You think this is too much? Maybe still more hype?
So, I mean, it depends on what you're talking about, really. I mean, it depends on what you're talking about as far as, keeping off the field. Is he going to be the starter? Does that mean he's going to get reps? What does that mean? Because I think he's going to get reps. I don't think there's any question about that, really. And of course, the only problem here with Cade Klubnik is, we've seen him in high school. We haven't seen him do anything yet in college. And you're basing this off what Dabo says, which if you know Dabo and have listened to him, that's a dangerous thing to do because he tells you everybody's all world. Okay. Mm-hmm. And that's great. It depends on, the message for certain people. He's got to do that. And that's great. They always want to say they hit a home run with every recruit, and that's okay. But it makes it very difficult for those of us that don't get to go out there and don't get to see practice, to make judgments on this kind of stuff. But I certainly think Cade Klubnik, from what I saw in high school, is talented enough to get in here, assuming he learns the playbook and stays healthy. He's going to get on the field. I have no doubt in my mind. I think it's going to be more. I think it's going to be more of a 90-10, 80-20 type deal, especially if DJ has improved, because you're going to want DJ to get all the reps he can to get that rhythm going.
Yeah, I'm going to point out two things. One, if you listen to Dabo, yes. Now, you go to certain Clemson media sources, and they're going to say, this kid's got the it. This kid's got the it factor when he walks on to the field and he steps into a room. So, like, I don't think this is one time that I'm like, maybe Dabo's right. And so it depends.
The one time maybe Dabo's right.
You know what I mean. I'm just saying. But
he's 50.
Yeah. What I'm saying is like, when you look at the spring game, it just depends on DJ itself. Like, if we go into the spring game and DJ looks like he's struggling still, and Cade comes in and just lights it up, you might actually have a battle like you had in 2018. Now, if it comes spring game time and both of them are at war with one another, then yeah, then you might just see a 90-10, 80-20 kind of deal and have Cade back there just kind of waiting in the wings. So it depends. But here's the one thing I want to point out, and I might have missed this in the articles. And like I said, I'm team DJ until it necessitates otherwise, right? He's given out both of the stats for DJ on each of the scrimmages. First game was 16 for 18. Second one, he was 12 for 20 with a pick 6. He has not given out any of Cade's stats, any scrimmages. Now, that could be two things. That's a twofold question. That could either be he is not doing well or he's doing really, really well and you're not trying to overhype him because you got a quarterback that you're trying to invest into. I tend to think it's the latter. And I hate saying that because I am Team DJ, leader of the DJ fan club right here. But I'm just saying I would go to the spring game to watch what's going on between those two.
Don't just say. Why don't you just say it instead of just say it?
Just saying, he's probably slinging it. So that's it.
Sorry about that. Bad joke. I just saw an article pop up just this afternoon. Made me think of DJ because we were talking about him losing weight. I'm hearing from Joe Ngata. I've always had a good amount of fat, he said, after Monday's practice. I'm losing weight and I'm taking the weight room a lot more seriously. My diet has changed a lot. I've cut out red meat. I've cut out pork. I've cut out all that stuff. I mean, I think you can be healthy and still be a red meat eater. I don't know. That's just me. But being healthy is important to me. I can understand how that goes. I know you guys agree with me, you meat eaters over there. But Dabo also mentioned about Ngata's success. This is from David Hood. I'm reading the quotes that he put in over on TigerNet. Just Ngata being healthy every day, practicing every day. And he's in a good place mentally because when you're not healthy, you don't feel good. You're frustrated about all those things. When you know what you can do, but physically you don't feel like you can do them, especially when you're in a competitive environment. It's been awesome. I mean, it's the last 9 days. I've seen the same guy every day. He's wide open. He's got one gear and he's been great. That's been a big deal for him over the past 2 years. And it's just a matter of him being on the field. If he's on the field, he's going to be a great one. All right. Al Houston, we've mentioned this plenty of times about players, specifically the wide receiver group, not being available. You cannot show who you are. And you really, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say it. Stop pouting on social media if you're not on the field. I mean, you're not getting playing time if you're not on the field. And I understand you can't help injuries. But if there are things that you can do to put yourself in the best situation, it goes back to the Tom Brady mentality that DJ is picking up. Tom Brady would make fun of me for drinking diet soda because he realizes that what he puts in his body is fuel to keep him going and keeping his longevity in a top performance at a top league in the NFL. So I think if you truly want to get to the NFL, you got to start thinking that way. Now, I'm not saying you need to get rid of red meat because I think you can still do it and eat your red meat, but Ngata's taking that approach to it. And I'm actually thinking that's great news there because you got to be available. It doesn't matter how talented you are if you're sitting there, without any pads on. So again, like Dabo said, it doesn't help you between the years either if you're constantly dealing with, this and that and lingering and never feeling your best. And obviously, if you go home and you eat bad, I know if I went to Big Mac and got a Big Mac and a large fry today, I haven't had one in probably a month now. And I would just kind of feel nasty, like, I mean, you gotta treat yourself like a Ferrari, like DJ said. And maybe what DJ's doing is rubbing off on guys like Ngata. I think that's nothing but positive for the Tigers. They need a true number one there. Al, we've been bragging on Ngata for years now. It's time for him to be the true number one. Now, we saw glimpses of him being the true number one, and then he would go away.
Yep.
And that's kind of what led to Frank Ladson leaving. I don't even know if we really saw glimpses because he was never on the field. Yeah. You can't ever be on the field if you're never on the field, you can never improve in your craft and never get the reps that you want if you're not available. Houston, we'll start with you.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the truth. Seeing him get improvement, like improving what he's doing. I mean, it's the same thing with DJ. Several of these guys need to do it, and I think that's part of what it is. Is you weren't the guy for 1-2 years, and then you got a year where you were supposed to be the guy, and you've been hanging around eating chicken wings and getting on social media and hanging with all the clout, and you got your bell rung. So now they're taking it seriously, and I think that's the new aura this year. Is you got some fresh blood with some coaches that are hungry, some coaches from last year that got their rear ends chewed and are back on the hunt and more more inspired to do so. And so you listen to all the reports coming out of practice. There's a new energy, and that's kind of going through everybody right now to do the right thing.
Dabo also, or Ngata also says, I was obviously upset that I couldn't finish out the season the way I wanted to, but it's all about just getting up, keep going, keep moving, keep being encouraged, keep having a positive mindset. These injuries, obviously not what I wanted, but it's molded me to be a tougher person, have a better outlook on my life and everything. I've always had a good outlook on those things, but I feel like I've just grown through these injuries. I'm very grateful for the injuries, to be honest. Dabo follows up and says, Ngata has been amazing. He's been amazing. His leadership has just done an awesome job. And I mean, again, just availability has been his biggest issue. He had a great freshman year, and these last 2 years have just been a big challenge for him. So hopefully this year he can stay on the field, because if he stays on the field, the rest will take care of itself. I promise you that. He's a really talented player, high level. Al, I think that's the mindset that the entire team needs to take. Continue to stay encouraged. Continue to keep the positive mindset. Remember where you come from. Remember who you are. Remember where you are, and acknowledge, hey, I didn't have a season. Don't shy away from it. I didn't have the season I wanted. Mm-hmm. How can I improve on that? How can I do better next year? Best today, better tomorrow is what we say at our work.
Yeah, it's always good to have that positive mindset. I will say this: I'm not grateful he has had these injuries, okay? Because I've been talking this guy up since you looked at his recruiting video when he was a senior in high school, and I've been saying, hey, this is some of the best receiver film I've ever seen for a Clemson player. He's got potential to be one of the best that's come through Clemson. He does everything well on film, and we saw glimpses of that at the beginning of last season, and then he was gone for the whole year. So it's time for me to see the Ngata that I've been talking about for like 5 years now. I'm ready to see it. I think he can do it, and I'm glad he's got this new mindset. I'm glad he's got this new healthy diet thing going and shedding what he says is fat, because I've never seen any fat on that dude. But I mean, I'm looking forward to what he can bring to the table this year, because I think he can be a true alpha.
What are we going? We're talking about like 5% to 3% here. I'm trying to get down to 15%, and this guy's like a big rock over here. Another cool note I thought when asked about Dabo Swinney's praise of him this spring, he said, he has to have confidence in me because he recruited me. I feel like if he has that amount of confidence in me, then I got to go produce. It's a two-way street. I always envision myself having a great year, just physically imposing my will, being fast, running down the field and finishing plays. I like that he mentioned imposing his will, because I left the Boston College game saying just that. Now, I actually didn't say impose. They should have imposed their will. I actually left the game saying they just need to start pushing off, because these guys ain't getting open for DJ. Now, DJ is not helping the cause by throwing it, 25 yards over their head. But when he does throw it on target, these guys are not getting open. So back to that, it is important to impose your will. Houston will end on that note. Thoughts on the wide receiver group as a whole, maybe even the offensive line, maybe even the entire team, taking that mentality of being positive and imposing their will this season?
Well, one thing that they can do to impose their will is a little bit of modernization of the offense, which is what they're going to do. And one of the things that I read, and I think the biggest name that's been added to this offensive staff this year that's going to help everybody out, is Kyle Richardson. I've been vouching for this guy for a long time. I was a little skeptical of the Brandon Streeter hire, but when they said that the passing game coordinator role was going to go to Kyle Richardson, I knew this was going to be a good decision. And they're moving from more of a pre-snap read to a post-snap read system, which is a lot of what you saw at LSU. A lot of what they're doing is spatial recognition. That's what made LSU dangerous. They were recognizing the leverages of the corners and the linebackers and basing their route trees off of that. And that's how they got so dadgum open all the time. And that's how Alabama and Ohio State are doing their wide receiver routes. That's how Jackson Smith and Jigba had 347 yards of receiving in the Rose Bowl. He just recognized leverage. They cleared out space for him, and he would just go to that open space. And that's what Clemson's going to do. You want to start imposing your will, make things simpler for the quarterback and the wide receivers. If you're able to do that and implement tempo, and then maybe marry these running concepts from Coastal Carolina to get your 3 big dog running backs in there, yeah, you could go from really bad to really good really fast.
Well, Houston, Alan, I really appreciate you guys coming on the show tonight and being a part of the conversation. Great conversation. We really had prepped for softball talk, baseball talk, recruiting talk as well, with 3 recruit evaluations that we have prepared as well. So a lot of content we were not able to get to in our hour show, but we will promise to get to it as we continue throughout the rest of this season and into the fall. Again, we're going to continue with our player highlight evaluations, where we go back and we watch high school film of recruits that Clemson is going after this season. And then again, we don't forget about softball and baseball. Talking about softball and baseball, just to show them some love as we get ready to walk out on you tonight. Softball takes down South Carolina for the first time at home, and they've got the Tar Heels up next. Doing great. One of the top 25 teams in pitching. Not so great in batting average. They've got to try to get on base more. Again, you've got Mackenzie Clark, Valerie Cagle. We've been saying this since the beginning of the season. Valerie needs other girls to pick up and step up with her, and not so much on the pitching side of things, but on the plate side of things. And Marissa Gumbarda is not having as good of a year this year. Valerie Cagle, even herself, is not having. I mean, she really, as a freshman, had an amazing year. And even John Rittman said it would be almost impossible to match or exceed what she did last year. So they're not holding those expectations up. But again, staying positive and continuing to battle through. But hey, how better of it to stay positive than to beat your rival like a drum just yesterday. And so it was nice to see the Tigers do that. South Carolina, again, has not beaten the Tigers at home at McWhorter Stadium. Again, the Tar Heels are up next. And then for baseball, Al, any keys to the weekend against NC State?
Look, I mean, careful now. You're opening a can of worms, but I'm going to try to do this really quickly. NC State, hey, I mean, you know, they just swept Georgia Tech. They've won 5 in a row. It's a very big deal. But I think as far as the keys to the game are concerned, I think, first of all, Mac Anglin's got to find his control with his fastball. That's a very big deal. He's struggled with that a lot over these past couple of starts, and he was your Friday night ace. He's your guy. So that's something we're really going to have to watch. If he can get to control the fastball, you know, and walk less guys, he's going to be the Friday night guy that we started out with, and that's what we need. I think Clemson's bullpen has to get back to business. They've been up and down a little bit these past few games. They were getting shelled by Pittsburgh. They did great against Wofford, but they're going to have to get back to being the consistent presence that they've been most of the season. Caden Grice has to snap out of it, plain and simple. Caden Grice, I mean, several series into this season, I mean, he was hitting 350 plus, and right now he's hitting 227. He leads the nation in strikeouts with 44. I don't know what's wrong with Caden Grice right now. He's got to figure it out because he's too important of a piece for this Clemson lineup. I think this is a very crucial series for both teams. I think that NC State did not get off to the start that they wanted. They've been a little more up and down than they thought. I think the loser of this series could potentially be out of the running for the postseason without a miraculous turnaround.
Houston, final thoughts on that before we say goodbye?
I tend to agree with everything that Al said.
I was teed that one up for you. Well, I'll give you one little update. from the softball team that's most important to my heart, not the Clemson softball team, but the 8 and under girls softball team for my daughter. Al, I got out there. I decided that I was going to be a assistant coach, not really by title. Okay, not really by title, but I said, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to help out, right? Because my military in me, I don't want, dandelion picking, playing in the dirt kind of thing. So what I decided to do is I was going to go and I was just going to walk around the infield, make sure the girls were getting set, make sure they were paying attention, not going to get hit by a ground ball or a fly ball or a line drive, and man, they did great. And Annabeth got up there, and Al, I'm telling you that. So we did like a pretend game. We did a mock game, and because Saturday is the first game of the season.
Okay.
Annabeth gets up there. She strikes out the first time. She strikes out the second time. She strikes out the third time. She gets up there the fourth time. I thought, man, this girl's going to be just like her dad, striking out. She gets up there the fourth time, and I go over to the assistant coach in the dugout. I say, hey, maybe we need to get a smaller bat. Maybe the bat I got is just too heavy, too long, because she was kind of keeping it on her shoulder. As I'm saying that, Al, she rocks one in between first and second, gets on base, and has her first hit. While she did that, now, Al, you know me, we've practiced this. I say, hit the ball, drop the bat, go to first. What do you think happened?
Oh, no. Tell me she didn't sling the bat, or tell me she didn't go to third.
She hit the ball. She was so excited. She jumped up and down. She ran to her mama. She ran to her mama in the back of the fence. Her mom said, run to first. She then looks at me and starts running to me. I said, drop the bat. She doesn't drop the bat. She runs all the way to first with the bat in her hand. So, we still got some things to work on, but, I'm very proud of her. And, that's what's all about, is having fun, being positive, and, and just seeing them learn the basics and just get better. So I look forward to the rest of however long the season goes. So looking forward to it, guys. But again, for everybody that's in the chat, we got so many people getting in there. Don't forget to hit the like button over on Facebook and YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe or follow if you haven't already. And then share with your friends. Be a friend and share with a friend. Tell a friend. But on behalf of myself, Big Al, and Mr. Houston Burnett, we'll see you at the top of the hill.
Tiger fans, Greenville is a wonderful place to call home, and take it from me, a great place to grow your family. The housing market can be an extremely competitive and intimidating place if you don't have the right agent. That's why we recommend our friend and local agent Lana Smith with Live Upstate SC Real Estate. She is a native of Greenville and has been serving the needs of families in the upstate for over 20 years. You need an agent proficient in navigating the world of multiple offers who will put your needs first and guide you through the process. Let Lana help you achieve your real estate goals. Call her today at 864-608-8313. Again, that's 864-608-8313. And let's get moving. If you're looking for a great atmosphere and good food, you have to check out the Charleston Sports Pub. They're the premier sports bar location in South Carolina, with locations in Clemson, Greenville, Goose Creek, James Island, Mount Pleasant, Summerville, and West Ashley. Watch all the games while you have fun playing all their games. Tiger fans, we dine there, legends dine there like Taj Boyd, and so should you. Go eat at the Charleston Sports Pub in Clemson every game day. 359 College Avenue, Clemson. Family owned and operated, serving Anderson County and surrounding areas since 1980. Heating and Cooling Services Inc. is your residential and commercial comfort expert. Anything from preventative maintenance of your home HVAC system to overhauling a commercial chiller and everything in between. If you want to breathe easier and be nice and cool in your home or business this summer or warm this winter, give Heating and Cooling Services Inc. a call today. Give Mark or Jason Trammell a call at 864-224-7655. Again, 864-224-7655, and they'll take good care of you. Tiger fans, we don't just dress for success, we TS for success. That's Tiger Sports Shop. We shop there so much that they practically begged us to be sponsors for them. Not serious, but we do love shopping at Tiger Sports Shop in one of their 2 locations, 364 College Avenue and 1102 Tiger Boulevard in Clemson. If you're not in Clemson to check out the experience, stop by online at www.tigersports.com. Again, tigersports.com for all your game day needs.